Hi, my name is Ghatim Kabbara. Welcome to Nexus, a podcast for the Caribbean, a business podcast for the Caribbean. Today, we are in the building of the Chamber of Commerce of Curaçao, here in downtown Willemstad, where the subject of our interview today is going to be the Curaçao economy. Today, we have four very special guests. They are board members of the Curaçao Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And we're going to be analyzing a document that they have recently published called Ban Sembra Awe Pa Cosechar Amanhã, which in English means let us plant seeds today so that we can harvest tomorrow. In this document, I've read it several times. I have a copy of it right here. Basically, it's the Chamber of Commerce expressing what their thoughts are in terms of the current state of the economy, what their vision is for the future, and what are the foundations that they believe need to be worked on to build for the next 10, 15, 20 years of the Curaçao economy and of the development of the society. As we know, Curaçao is going through some difficult challenges from the economic side at the current moment. So it is not of a surprise that the Chamber of Commerce wants to add value to the conversation and bring to the table their perspective as they represent all of their members of the Chamber of Commerce. They have in their document outlined several points, 4 specific areas that they believe are very important for the development of the economy. These 4 points are rende in papiamento, which is people. The second is productividad, which is production. Third is economia, which is the economy. And then the fourth is nivel de bienestar, which is the quality of life. They believe that these 4 points are pillars to any plan or strategic plan for the development of the economy. So help me welcome my guests today to Nexus. We have right here to my right, we have Mr. William Jonckheer, better known here on the island as Billy. Everyone knows Billy. If you don't know Billy, you're not from Curaçao. I think that it's fair to say that. Billy is not only a board member, but since 2010, he's also been the president of the Chamber of Commerce. And he's also been involved his whole career since 1977 when he started his career in the airline industry. Right. He's been involved in tourism and he's been, as we all know him, very vocal, very critical of things happening, of developments on the island. But he's been in Chata, he's been in all of the major organizations involved. So thank you, Billy. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Next to Billy, we have also a very special young man who's breaking borders. He's going through borders, setting up offices for his company called Minubia in Bogota, in Colombia. So he's a true example of young entrepreneurs on the island who are in tech, who are in software, and who are now exporting and taking their businesses into new markets, which is a great example of it can be done. It can be done. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Renato Ignacio.
Thank you very much.
From Minubia. No, thanks for being here with us today. Next to Renato, we have Mr. Brian Iruskin. He's a country and tax managing partner of EY for the Dutch Caribbean. He's a tax expert. Not only that, he's been very much involved with writing proposals for tax laws on the island. So he knows the legislation very, very well. And he's also a board member of the Chamber of Commerce and one of the key people involved with pushing for the development of this document, which basically encapsulates the vision of the Chamber of Commerce. Brian, welcome to Nexus.
Thank you, Ghatim.
Yeah. And last but definitely not least, a lot of people for sure have seen this next gentleman and know of his business of INDEL NV. He's the managing director of INDEL NV, which is a technology-based company that offers complete solutions in electronic security and communications. He's also the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce. Marcus Cova, thank you very much for being here. It's a real pleasure to have you here at the table.
Thank you for having me, Ghatim.
Yeah. Well, first of all, gents, I want to say I want to thank you guys for allowing us to do this. It is very, very troubling times in Curaçao. We have some concerns. There are opportunities. There are some ideas on the table. And this is a very special opportunity for us to be able to sit around the table and just put those ideas and share them. And hopefully the people who are watching us now whether on YouTube or on Facebook or on Instagram or any of the social media platforms can follow in and also participate with their comments on the posts that we're going to be doing. So to kick it right off and also to share it with everyone who's watching us, the interview today is going to be 4 parts. So if you are watching at this point in the video, make sure you still until the end, because that's, but you won't understand what's happening at the end if you don't see the first 3 parts. Is that fair? So I've already explained it to the table, but for those of you watching us, part 1, we're going to be doing an analysis. We're going to take a picture of the economic situation on the island, where we are today, what is currently happening. I'm going to be picking their minds and having my guests' perception on what's happening. Second part, we're going to understand how we got here. We want to talk about that. Third part, what's the vision that the Chamber of Commerce has for the future. And the fourth part, the how. And I think the how, if you're listening to this, the how is what a lot of people want to know. How do we get started? Where do we go? What's the next step to take? So without further ado, let's get started. Gentlemen, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, great. So I'm going to start my first question. I'm going to pitch my first question towards Brian, since you've been a collaborator on writing this document. Why this document? Why the title Ban Sembra Awe Pa Cosecha Mayang? What's the purpose of this document? Why is the Chamber coming and supporting this document right now?
Well, basically, it's a call to action. We've seen many reports over the years in Curaçao, ranging from the IMF, the IDB, or whatever institution, the 3 wise men, and the Netherlands, the central bank, you call it, you name it, and there are reports that have been lost in a drawer someplace. And we keep asking ourselves, why do all these reports disappear and nothing happens? Or we get the questions, why do certain organizations keep repeating the same problems or the same solutions? Why don't they change? The reality is that a lot of these issues still exist because they have not been dealt with. But we as a chamber keep asking ourselves why it is how it is and how we can change this. We also try to reinvent ourselves to change the approach in a hope to change the results.
Yeah.
But once we decided we don't want to prepare a report of 50 or 100 pages like you usually get, we thought, how can we try and make a report that is readable, understandable for the general public, and is a real call to action.
Okay.
With concrete steps of what we think can work as a snowball to get the economy rolling.
Well,
once you decide that that's what you want to do, something comes to mind, and that is, what is the economy?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people talk about the economy. We have ministries of economic development. We have in the streets, everyone talks about the economy because the economy is supposedly the solution for all the problems.
Mm-hmm.
But how does the man on the street push the economy if he doesn't really understand what the economy is? So that's why we chose this document to first explain a little bit the social welfare that a lot of people want, how they can get it. And it's the economy that will create the welfare. And what the economy is. The economy is productivity. How do we create the productivity? Those types of it sounds simple, but a lot of people have the idea that if they start a retail store, that it will be good for the economy. Mm-hmm. And that is not necessarily the case. And in this brief report, we try to explain the economy in general for the Joe Sixpack, Junie and Curaçao, so they can understand what the economy is. A lot of politicians also talk about the economy. Here we explain what it is. And once you know what it is, you know how to drive it.
Yeah. So you mentioned something very interesting there, which is really understanding what the economy is, and I've been to some countries in the Caribbean where when I speak to some people and they talk about their leaders, they basically told me the economy isn't all this that the government is talking about. The economy is that when I open my fridge, there's food in the fridge. That's how someone described it to me when I in my last trip to Cuba at one time. It's
Wow.
like that's economy.
What we're explaining in here is how to get the food in your fridge.
Exactly. Okay, great. So in the document, you at the beginning of the introduction, you talk about this stagnation, all these things that are decisions that have been made or are stuck or not being done correctly, or we're repeating the same mistake over and over again. That brings us to the idea. Okay, well, let's dissect what the picture is today. Where are we right now? Because yes, we can. Before we start talking about all these things that we've done wrong or decisions, I do want to get some more ideas from you in terms of how you're seeing the situation today. So I'm going to pass this over to Marcus. Marcus, from your view as an entrepreneur and as a businessman yourself and involved with the chamber, I mean, you're on the street, you're talking with clients, you're feeling it out there. What's happening in the economy from your point of view and from what you're able to see from your colleagues in the chamber?
We're falling behind.
Yeah.
We're falling behind compared with similar economies. We're falling behind with any economy you compare us with. And it's very unfortunate because we see that we should have the tools and we should be able to grow and we should be able to do certain things. But it is obvious that we are not taking the right steps. And our impression is that we keep using Band-Aids. We keep trying to come up with short-term solutions. We try to make people happy with small, simple decisions that are not solving the bigger problem. So what we're trying to do in this document is look at the fundamentals. What is it that really is wrong? What is it that we need as a base to be able to build this economy we believe we need to have here to create this welfare that's necessary?
Right. And you mentioned four things that are like at the beginning of the document, which is, people, productivity, economy, and quality of life. Is it fair to say that those are the foundations of what the document is built on?
Yeah, and I like to talk about them from the back coming to the front, in the sense that what we all want is social well-being. We want to be in a good place. We want to have all those things we dream of having. The problem is that it seems like people expect that those are being given away, especially from our way of governing is trying to give away small gifts so people will stay happy, which does not solve the long-term problem. If we want to have social well-being, we need something to fund that. The only way to fund that is to have a strong economy. To have a strong economy, we need to be able to produce. We need productivity to get to a strong economy. And to be able to produce, we need people that are capable of producing. So we're trying to make a change with the end in mind, and we need to make that change in the people so we can have the production to have the economy to be able to get that social well-being.
Right. So when you talk about production, and Brian touched based on production not being just opening another retail store. I mean, we're talking about a different kind of production if you want to stimulate the economy.
Productivity, actually.
Productivity and productivity also to stimulate the economy means export. It means producing a service here or being able to offer a service and go international and bring currency outside. What is the current picture right now? Yeah. Yes, you've already mentioned that we're lagging behind, but there's different sectors of our economy, mind you. There's the financial, the tourism, the refinery. Where are we going? Billy, do you want to jump in here a second? Do you want to throw that in there? What's the picture right now? Paint that picture for me right now.
Curaçao does not have any materials, so we can, build bikes or whatever. We have people and service. And that's the base of it. That's the base also of the document. It's a service economy. We have a much better chance. Curaçao in the past has been a service economy, the financial sector.
Right.
What has happened is that those sectors have become, we didn't go with the time, what's happening in the world. We stayed with the financial sector that's dying out. We stayed in the refinery that's dying out, but we didn't go into tech, or we didn't go into education, worldwide, international education, those type of things. Curaçao says, and that's a problem we have on this island. People don't like change. People don't like, hey, it's going good, let's just keep it like that. But as time goes on, this thing is becoming old, and the world is running away, and we're standing here, and we need to catch up.
Yeah.
So the problem is we do not. We need to. Our main source is our people.
Okay, so I get that you're connecting the productivity with service, and service meaning that you need to have qualified people, and not only qualified people working in the sector that the world is going to right
exactly.
now. Yeah, please, Renato, jump in. Yes.
So the main thing is that there has been a disconnect. What we're producing locally, and that's what Brian was referring to, is not aligned with what the rest of the world is asking for. And so if you want to produce or be more productive, we need to align more towards like the needs of the world, if you may say it like that. And if you see it right now at this moment, technology is leading. The biggest companies worldwide are tech companies. Oil has had its time. Financial sector has had its time too. But the thing is, here in Curaçao, we have had it. We had it good for a long time. So we became pretty comfortable in what we were doing, while the rest of the world shifted. So that's the current picture right now. So we are doing the same things that we've been doing for like 50, 70 years, 40 years. But we're not getting the same results.
Okay, well, I'm going to throw a wrench in that argument for a second, just for argument's sake, because the island has made a step towards hosting and towards the Blue Nap Americas, which used to be CTEX before. Now it's called Blue Nap Americas.
Yes.
Blue Nap Americas is a T4 data center.
Data center, exactly.
The best in the world. It's high level. You're in that world. What's happening? Why? I mean, here a major investment, smart idea. We took the initiative. UTS had it. It's connect. We have submarine cables connecting the island.
That's one.
Why is this not progressing? Why is it not growing?
It's progressing. So we have like big companies located here in Curaçao using Blue Nap, big tech companies. Well, the thing is, that's only a small part when you're talking about technology. So that's the same if saying that you're producing straws for the whole plastic industry. So we're talking about diversification too. So not only selecting like one sector, but also diversifying. You can do, for instance, services, what we have been talking about, but you can also do production of products, testing of software. There are many things that you can do if we're talking about tech. But tech is only one example in this case. You can also see the use of tech in education, in business. That's also lagging. If you see like one person working at a dentist or one person working in the accounting firm, how productive is that person compared to the same a person in, for instance, Holland or America? They're more productive there because they use the technology tools better compared to here. So those are things that also happen.
Okay. I think this is a perfect example of who moved my cheese.
Yes.
So
exactly.
We were too comfortable for too long with the financial industry and the oil industry, which took good care of our people for a long time. But we did not keep sharp with the developments. So it's not like the oil industry or the financial industry have been died and they're gone. They're still there, but we are too much in a comfort zone, and time has progressed. So now we need to step up. And with this also, we want to create a vision so people start understanding how they can impact the economy and how we can start moving forward in the new reality. It's not like nothing good is happening on the island.
No.
We are at a critical stage of the island and the development of the island. But the tourism is going well. There are some tech developments also. They are also interesting. So there are positive things, pockets of things happening.
Mm-hmm.
But
Significant enough? Are they significant enough?
not significant enough
Yet.
because we need to deal with the block at our feet that no one, or I call it the elephant in the room, no one is dealing with.
No.
And we need to deal with those things because those things hamper the economy. They hamper the old economy, but they will hamper the new one also.
Right. We'll get to the elephant in the room a little bit because that is going to be key to finding solutions moving forward. I want to, just to wrap up this part of our interview, I think what I hear you guys saying is it is about the people because we don't have raw materials, we haven't discovered oil yet as far as we know on our shores. So it really depends on our people. We have great talent on the island, but that talent needs to be educated, prepared, and it needs to be prepared in the right industry, whether it's tech or whether it's any of the new industries that are coming up now, so that they're prepared to be able to work from here and to be able to offer services internationally. Mm-hmm. And that is tied into the education part as well, very tied to education. And the situation today is that, and from what I hear you saying, is that the economy we haven't done those changes. We haven't prepared ourselves for when the world changed. So we didn't evolve together with the
changes.
Global economy.
Exactly.
We stayed an island economy and stayed very comfortable with it. So
we were comfortable.
Very comfortable. Okay. So let's talk about how we got here. Okay, let's analyze that for a second, because we say we got comfortable, we did, but we had opportunities. We had different opportunities during our history to be able to make that decision to go in a direction that today we would be more prepared. So I want to tap on your shoulder now, because you know more of the economic history, maybe. Where, Billy, from your part, one point in history that you can think of that you say, as a country, we made a decision to go in a certain way, or we missed the boat. What would you say that moment is? What happened there for us to understand how we got here?
As you know, my expertise is in tourism. When I first started in 1992 in tourism in Curaçao, if it was up to the government, we wouldn't have tourism today, because everybody says we have no chance. We can't survive out there in the world of tourism. So what happened is the private sector took the batuta, like they say. They took the step.
Yeah.
And today we have a booming tourism sector. What happens a lot of times is that governments that sit don't want to take the tough decisions. You have to take a decision. Until today, tourism is not there yet. What has to be spent for tourism to produce is not being spent, and they're not making the decision. So
spent or invested,
They're investing into it. If you give an example, an island that right next to us is very successful. It's been successful for years. Is putting 4 or 5 times in their budget of marketing the island than we are.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving an example of where the government, if it was up to the government in 1992, tourism wouldn't be, because we talked about everything else but tourism, because we thought we couldn't get there. But we did it, and it's successful because we decided as a country we have to go in that direction. I think it's the same thing in everything that we do. If we don't take that step and say we're going to go for it, which we never do, we always take the way that maybe, I don't want to take that chance, or I don't want to take the political gamble, it won't happen. And that's where we are right to today. And many times you talked about Blue Nap.
Yeah.
The reason Blue Nap isn't really that successful is because we didn't take decision that the government we should find a way for them, for the transferring of information to be less expensive. In Miami, we're 100 times the cost of Miami, to give you an example. So what do we need to do to attract those businesses to use Curaçao in the future? We have to find a way that we can bring down the cost of those cables that go over Curaçao.
And then I think that it's not only happening with Blue Nap, but I think a lot of industries, the cost of doing business on the island
Way high.
Yes.
is
Way too high.
is high. Yeah, I mean, from my financial perspective, how do you see this? Did we have opportunities to be able to reduce our cost of doing business? Do we still have opportunities to do that?
I think differently. I don't mind having high cost of doing business if my value proposition is the right one. But if my product and my value proposition is not of high quality, I cannot afford a high cost of doing business. That's a difference. So we need to understand first what our offering is. Then we can discuss the cost associated. But since we're talking about how we came here, it comes back a little bit to what we discussed in the first part. It is complacency. Complacency kills everything. The private sector needs to drive the economy. The government can facilitate the economy. It sounds easy, simple, but a lot of times it gets confusing, and the results therefore are also confusing. What happens is Royal Dutch Shell came here 1918, I believe. It's not really a government decision whether they came or not, but it had a mega impact on the social welfare, economic welfare of this country. Still to this day, most of the big infrastructural projects
We're done during that time.
were done during that time.
Yeah.
The bridges and the mega piers, everything. So we have a lot to thank for that. Now we have the environmental issues, etc. But as a country, we progressed a lot, and the country enjoyed that welfare. Mr. Smith came with the offshore financial industry in the late 1940s. And it was majorly successful also. So we had two very important pillars, creating a lot of tax income for the government. And the government enjoyed that success. The country enjoyed that success with high employment. We were once our income per capita was one of the highest in the region.
Is it no longer?
It is no longer. We were the envy of a lot of countries in the region. But because we had this huge income, people got comfortable. Well, also the government got comfortable. It could absorb more costs, employ more people, because things were good. But when things started dwindling, becoming less, they could not reduce their costs, or did not want to reduce their costs, whatever the case may be. The mindset stayed the same. We should have all these employees. We should have all of this. We should have this social package for our people. But our dynamics changed. So how do you deal with that? And to this day, we have not dealt with the infrastructural problem that our economy is no longer producing what they wanted to produce to take care of the people like they want to take care of the people. So we need to get an honest picture. Why did we get here? I think everyone may have their own stories. For me, it's not whether this person or that person is better or worse, whether it's the unions, it's the politicians. It's a general, as a country, a complacency.
When you say complacency, the image I get in my head when you say that is not being ready to accept the new reality.
Correct.
And not being,
being
afraid or being
comfortable.
Yeah,
But
it's no longer comfortable. I mean, right now, a lot of people are going through some hard times. I mean, times are changing, and now a lot of people in the streets are feeling it.
Yes, but
I think for the first time, a lot of people are starting to really feel the
Now
crunch. You know?
And
now
now,
for the first time they're feeling the crunch. And the question is, how bad does it need to get before
they're willing to make the
we,
changes.
we change our attitude towards this
Mhm.
to push this country forward? Because other countries around us, you would see like in Aruba. They were also in the Netherlands Antilles, but they wanted to disattach themselves from the Netherlands Antilles. So they wanted to come up and stand up for their country. Curaçao, on the other hand, we did not need to stand up for ourselves yet. Yes, we had 10-10-10 and we became autonomous, but we always had a cushion that when things get really tough,
Yeah.
some help will come. Hurricanes don't come to Curaçao.
Yeah.
People don't even prepare anymore for hurricanes when there are hurricane warnings because it will not happen anyway.
Yeah.
People still have, because they for 40, 50, 60 years, you've been comfortable. It's difficult to change your paradigm that, I need to act differently now. Maybe you need to, with
Yeah.
with everything that you know you need to change, but changing is difficult.
Right. I wonder if the change also, as the generation before us, our parents, maybe.
Why? I'm not that old, Ghatim.
No. But I think also it's been a trend, because we've had a financial sector and there's so many people studying accounting. So many people trying to get a job at a bank, trying to get a job.
I mean, let me
And
put
we
it this
need
way.
more.
And
Let me put it this way. We keep on hearing. I get so upset when I hear somebody telling me my kid is studying business administration.
Yeah.
I tell them it's something that disappeared.
Yeah.
We're not showing our kids the directions they have to go in. They're taking the easy way.
Yeah.
And the easy way is I'm going to get you there.
well, I've recently started seeing
Grateful.
the curriculum of the universities here.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
and you see and I think it ties into to what you're saying. We're
Yeah.
still seeing subjects being taught
That are
that
not
are
needed.
of this,
Of the old.
economy, the economy of Curaçao that is now starting to disappear or defragment. Marcus, I want you to jump in. I want you to give us a little bit of input, because you are an entrepreneur. You've also seen quite a bit of things on the streets. I mean, from your perspective, and I've read your bio. I mean, it's impressive. I mean, you started at Curacao. I remember reading, and then you grew up management until you owned your own company. I mean, there was a Curaçao when that was possible, that you could grow and then start. And I think INDEL, you also do international business. You're not only local. If your son or daughter came to you now and looked to you and said, what would you tell them to study? I mean, what would you tell them? Hey, listen, for the future economy of Curaçao, what would be your advice to them? And say, hey, listen, go study so and so. What would that be?
I'm not sure, and I have to confess that I think that is a very difficult thing to anticipate. Other than to say that I think that we need to be much more resilient. To me, it is a lot. Of course, education is very important, but I think on the island, what we need more than anything else is formation. We need to create human beings that are productive, that are willing to be productive. We've been spoiled for a long time. We've been taught a path that if you follow, you would get a steady job. And we need to be more flexible in the way that we teach, the way that we learn, and the way that we develop. I say that we've been spoiled because we, unfortunately, I'm of the thinking that we can bring a change on the island. Unfortunately, I believe that change will come when we hit rock bottom. I think at that point, we will have private sector, unions, and government sit together and really look for a solution. Before we get to that point, unfortunately, we are spoiled.
No.
We do not want to let go of the level of well-being that we
Used to
think
know.
we have,
Yeah.
that we can no longer afford,
Right.
but that we feel we have a right to.
Yeah.
So we need to get a little bit real and decide on what it is that we can have, what it is we want to have, and then work towards that.
You know,
Can I just
yes, of course.
because I agree completely with Marcos. But if I would need to answer the same question, I would say next to resilience, because it's part of formation of the character of the person. So of course they need to do mathematics and the languages and all these things in school. But I would teach my children, I am teaching my children, creativity,
Mm-hmm.
analytic thinking, teaming.
Yeah.
Those three things are key in their formation. But as a country, we need to think about the people we want to educate for the future. But also, I'm educating my children to be world citizens.
Mm-hmm.
So the government needs to ask itself, what will it do for my children to stay here or to come back here? Because it needs to be attractive. Because if these people that we're educating to be strong persons that can represent us, they can live anywhere. Why would they come back?
Mm-hmm.
Because their lombrici is here?
Yeah.
Because their parents are here? That's all good reasons.
Yeah.
But as a country, you need to be attractive, sufficiently attractive to attract these talents to come back. Not only because their parents live here, but because they need to want to be here.
Yeah.
And we need to think about those things.
Yeah. You have kids?
No, I don't.
You don't have kids.
No.
If you were to have kids in the near future, I mean,
Yes.
I think we all have kids and they're a little older now, but one day maybe you want to be a dad.
Yeah.
What is it about the economy right now that scares you about having a child right now?
It's very uncertain at the moment. But if I might answer the question that you asked, Marcus, as to what would I suggest my kids or future kids to study, there's if you can separate education into groups as to supportive jobs and creative or productive jobs. Supportive jobs are administration, accounting, jobs that are needed in order to produce something. But as to productive jobs, such as dentist, lawyer, artist, software developers, those kind of jobs are creative or productive jobs. One thing you're seeing right now is that it's becoming much easier for productive people to reach their end consumer without the middleman or supportive.
There are tools now. There's apps for that.
Exactly.
They're being replaced by apps.
They're being replaced by apps.
Yeah.
But the creativity part, still, there are experiments going on with artificial intelligence and stuff like that. But it's still a human thing for the next 50 years. People will be the ones, for 20 years at least, people will be those who will be the one that are going to create things. So if you need to choose, I would say choose for a creative job instead of a supportive one. As for the future of Curacao, I might say, if you travel around, you still see Curacao still has certain things that are very unique to this island. For instance, diversity. In one way or another, our passport enables us to be able to go wherever we want.
Yeah,
Something like that. So those are very good things that we have that we can use. So
those are opportunities.
Those opportunities. There are opportunities if we do something with them. Otherwise, they're just things that we don't do anything with. So,
right.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked you that about having a kid, because I can imagine in a state of economy like this, a lot of people who young couples who are thinking of starting a family, they look at what's happening, and it could be a worrisome. because cost of living is going up. Education, as we've discussed, I think most people are seeing this already, that the education at the schools are not at par with being that global citizen. I think a lot of people are seeing that language in the school is playing a major role. We've had this discussion about papiamento and Dutch. I wanna touch base with you and before we do that, I do wanna wrap up the second part with what I'm hearing you guys say about the past is that we did not evolve together with the global economy, with the advancements in technology, with the new business models that got out there. We are doing supportive roles. We're still doing a lot of that supportive role, and which is manual work, paperwork that is being now replaced by some kind of an app or software, or maybe even outsourcing it to another country where it's cheaper. Yet we're still stuck in time trying to do that from the old economy.
Yes.
And the fact that it is very difficult to choose. What do you advise somebody, a young person who's starting their career? What did they study? What did they master in? What did they go in? Yes, it's dying, and we need to see what our schools are doing. What's at the university level? What are we teaching at the university level? What are we teaching at the high school level?
What's being taught should be the direction we want to go.
Absolutely.
And that's important.
Absolutely. That's very, very important. Okay, so that now goes into where do we want to go. So now I want to enter into this next part of our conversation. I'd like us to discuss for a few minutes the vision, because there's obviously a vision behind this. Brian said it from the beginning what the purpose of this is, but and we've touched on the 4 pillars and where we are and how we got here. Where should we be 5 years from now? And then where should we be 10 years from now? And where should we be 25 years from now? Let's start with 5, because right now the house is burning up. We need some firemen to come in.
Yep.
And we need to know, how are we going to rebuild? Let's talk about it from that side. If we all can agree that, something's burning, and once we take that fire off, that needs to start rebuilding, because whatever we do right now to turn off the fire, it's a patch, but still the house is burnt. So now we need to rebuild. So, gentlemen, who would like to start first? Who would like to go first?
Education should be number 1.
Okay.
But education, people say, you're educating, but these kids won't be ready in 5 or 10 or 15 years. No, we need to educate not only the kids, but also the workforce.
Okay.
To the new economy. So we should prepare people to look at other jobs, maybe, because that job that they're doing is going to be not going to be there in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
That's number 1. Number 2, in my opinion, is that, like Brian said earlier, government should facilitate. What do I mean by that? Rules and regulations should be easy for you to do business, not difficult. It shouldn't be if somebody wants to come here with their family, want to live, and they can bring into the economy and their know-how that we don't have, why not let them come in? So make the rules easier. So those in the next 5 years, we should be already. How we're going to change the educational system to get ready for the world, and how we're making it easier for you to do business. Those 2 things should be going full steam ahead, and also immigration, and agree this is the direction we're going to go. These are the 5 pillars we're going to go for. So we're going to base everything that we do on those 5 pillars, which is technology, international education, financial sector, even though at a less thing, logistics.
Okay, I want to touch base
and
on
tourism.
I want to touch base on the education part, because that, from what I hear, from what I see in the document, is key. It's like the key that opens all doors.
Yep.
Language.
Mm-hmm.
We have an issue. I said I was going to come back to it, and this is me coming back to it now.
Yeah.
We have the Dutch system.
Yeah.
From what I understand, we have a version 1.0 of what they used to do in Holland, because Holland now is in 5.0, 6.0.
Yes.
However, we haven't changed.
We haven't changed our system.
We haven't changed it. And then the question is, why? And then there's papiamento. in the schools. Again, I love my language. I love my island. I love, I love speaking Papiamento. But if we are, if we want to think as a global citizen, if we want to be able to compete on the international market and be able to bring that kind of prosperity to the island, should there be more English in the schools?
50% of the world speaks English. 50%.
Yeah.
So if you want to, and English is international language of business, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's important, very important to have English. Now, how are you going to do it in the educational system? Sure, we have to look at it. But even Holland and their secondary schools, English has become important.
Yes.
They teach in English. So they're seeing that. So, I mean, why we stay behind? I'm not saying that, like you say, I also love Papiamento. I spoke Papiamento in my house since I was born.
Yeah.
But still, I can speak the other languages because I was exposed to it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, my time when I went to school, maybe Marcos also, you know that in the 5th grade you're going to get English and the 6th grade you're going to get Spanish.
Right.
Today, there are schools that don't even teach English.
Yeah.
So we have a very serious problem that we have to catch there.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion is the younger you catch a child, walk on the streets of Curaçao today.
Yeah.
Ask a kid something in English. He'll answer you.
He'll answer you. But that's the iPad influence.
Exposed. Yeah, it's the exposure.
It's the exposure.
So we should find a way.
Yeah.
We should find a way. We should
Yeah.
find a way to have the kid do 2 to 3 languages when they're at their young age. So that's my.
If I may add 2 things. One of where we should be in 5 or 10 years, but the other one about language. I think the chamber is clear that to make our youngsters successful, we need to prepare them to be successful. And so they should be able to compete at an international level. So they should dominate a few international languages, at least one.
Yeah.
1 being English, 2 Spanish. Choose another one if you want to.
Right.
But if I read last that if you can speak English and Spanish, you can communicate to 80% of the world population.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. For us, the discussion is more, it's clear that once our children can speak, not only speak, but especially read English.
Read and understand.
Exactly.
Analytically, yeah.
Then they have access to a lot more knowledge.
Yeah.
Because on the internet also, you get a lot of knowledge. But you need to have the language to access that knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's about accessing information and knowledge. That's the key. So what we are debating in the chamber is how do we ensure that our children are ready to access that information, that they can access it. They can access it on internet, but also in the schooling system, we need to offer it. But what's the best way from their mother language to learn that English or Spanish, and then reduce the time of your mother language and increase the hours you spend. The more hours you spend learning something, the better you get at it.
Yes.
So if it's only 1 hour a week that you get English, you will not get proficient in English. So the question is, where's the turning point? Is it when they're 4 years, 5 years, 6 years? Not much later than that. You need to start converting. So that's debates that we are having. We are having discussions also with the educational sector to understand from their perspective what works best. Because it's not an easy question, just put English because the educators also need to be educated. You need to have the material. So it's a bigger question. But for us, it's clear.
And it's a high priority too.
Yeah.
It's clear that there needs to be much more focus on English.
Yeah.
If you want to have someone who's productive, that person needs to be willing and able. The willingness, it should be pretty obvious. Once you meet that person, someone comes into your organization. The able has changed. It used to be that you go to elementary school, you go to high school, college, university, and then you have a skill. And that is what you exploit for the rest of your life. Nowadays, developments are going so fast that whatever it is you taught in school might not be what you're going to be productive in in the future. You need to be ready, resilient, flexible to absorb new. I mean, someone who's a car mechanic in a few years might have to work on an electrical car. You need to be able to absorb the information necessary to make that transition.
That manual will not be in the document.
And that
No.
manual could be
No.
on an iPad, it could be YouTube, it could be, but most of it is going to be a foreign language.
No.
Most probably English.
No.
So what we say is, if we want to have that opportunity and give our people the best chance of being productive, being resilient, and being flexible towards the future, they need to dominate English so they are open to all the knowledge that is available to them.
So within the vision, language, super important to be able to speak English and to speak Dutch and to speak Oriental, but English from a business perspective, from man, whether it's technical or a more of a functional, it is a requirement for us to be able to connect with the rest of the world
is
and
imperative.
stay up to date with the rest of the world and
Right.
be that global citizen,
Yeah.
be a true competitor,
Exactly.
having local talent to be able to compete. So if we have a company who has an account manager who needs to go internationally, he's going to be, competing with some guy from New York.
Yes.
Our guy needs to have a fighting
And
chance.
Ghatim, whenever I go internationally, people just tell me we still have people in Curacao that can speak 4 languages. How we switch from one language to the other.
Yeah.
So we can do it.
Yes, for
We've
sure.
proven in the past that we can do
Yeah.
it. So
It's one of our fortes.
one of our strengths.
It's
yeah.
one of our
Yeah.
strengths.
Yeah.
However, we learn those languages almost on the street. We don't learn them. It's not in the system though. It's not plugged in right
Well,
now.
when I was going into not anymore. When I went to school, it was in the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think I can add something about, because the question about 5 years and 10 years.
Yeah.
I think you cannot answer that question without a brief look back.
Mm.
In the sense that we discussed about being comfortable, being complacent. Back in the day, when the oil industry, the refinery especially, was at its peak, and the financial industry also, and everyone was comfortable, Curaçao decided that it needed to protect itself from foreign workers and foreign people, because all this good needs to be protected.
Mm.
When you have something of value at your home also, you keep it in a safe or something because you need to protect something that is valuable. That's what they did. They protected the whole system we had. But the question is, what happens now? Now, in the coming 5 years, we need to transform our economy. Okay, so in the next 5 years, what I think will happen is first the realization that we need to change and start letting go of protection. We can't protect ourselves from the rest of the world. We need to open ourselves to connect with the world. And then when you get your education system, it's not just a matter of our children communicating in English with the other countries, but it's also a matter of attracting talent to Curaçao. If we attract talent to come to Curaçao and they need to learn Papiamento, we make it more difficult. It's an additional hurdle we are adding to attract them. So we need to also think about how we make ourselves more attractive for the right people we want.
All right. So education, and now you're touching on a point which is immigration. And how do we attract talent? My question to you guys on the table is, what kind of talent? What kind of talent are we talking about when you say, we want to be able to attract this high level talent?
I just mentioned five of the pillars, right? One of the major pillars is tech. The other one is logistics. I mean, the talent should be, in my opinion, number one in that direction, and it should be talent that comes to the island, but also exports out of the island. Not to come and produce for the island, but come and produce to export. So that's where the talent has to
But
come
also
from.
means
And it means talent that we don't have. Huh?
right.
So I mean, talent that is out there that we don't have. And now you're not going to just attract that talent because Curacao is beautiful. There's other things
Yeah.
that the
You
talent
have to
looks
attract
at.
the company that comes
And
with that talent also.
The company that comes with the talent, the educational system, the health system, the taxes that he has to pay. So you got to make it, for him comfortable that he
Right.
can come and live
There
here.
are a lot of things that needs to change, but if you ask me, you cannot select what type of people you want to attract as to like which sector, but the people that can move from one country to another, most of them are like high skilled or have like high paying jobs, and because of the changing times, the companies don't need to move to this country neither. They can still work from the internet. So if you make it more flexible for people to allocate themselves here in Curacao.
Yeah, like nomads, like
Exactly.
digital nomads.
And that's
going
one thing
around,
that I wanted to talk about. If you look at all those YouTubers traveling from North America to South America, or going to Europe, Asia, or Caribbean, and stuff like that.
That's tourism. That's
tourism, immigration, everything. All
integration right here. Yeah.
And if you make that easy, those people they're already working from abroad, from a distance, so you don't need to have like the companies move. So that's like the new way of working that we need to be aware of. That it's not like the typical I moved there and I'll be I'm going to be living here for like 10 years. They might want to come here and work for like 2 years and then go somewhere else, or maybe then you must think like, okay, how can I make it interesting for them to stay? So they can come here as a tourist. They can, do whatever they want, and stuff like that.
Well, that is the trend right now. That's the global trend. A lot of people, their businesses is a laptop and a phone.
Yes,
I mean, and they go all over the world doing this.
Yes, people, they want to live, they want to pay less for home and for medical costs and everything. So people move from United States to Portugal, or from Europe to somewhere else to lower their costs. So that's something that is also very interesting.
And see the world.
World.
Billy mentioned that our economy is a service economy. But what would you do if you have a service business where you manage people? Because it's the knowledge that you're of those people that you're selling. You recruit the best people, you train them well, and you retain them. So as a country also, you need to recruit the best people, the people that you recruit and the people you already have. You need to train them well, and you need to retain them. With what do you retain them? You retain them with security. You need to feel at home. With the health system, insurance, etc. You need to make them feel comfortable here and to want to be here. They can resign anytime. You treat them badly, they will move away. That's in a normal business. But as a country also, that's why in the document also we talk about an HRM strategy for the country.
Mm-hmm.
You need to, at this moment, we have 9 ministries, all of them doing their thing. But we miss a strategy. How do we attract talent? How do we train talent? What kind of talent do we train? And how do we retain them? A holistic vision and how we develop our economy and our population.
So, guys, to summarize the vision, obviously we spoke about education being key. We spoke about the language within that education, language being essential part. We touched base on the need to upgrade our current educational system to be at par maybe with what is happening in the Netherlands. I mean, we're not suggesting to leave the Dutch system, but we're saying let's upgrade and match up to what's happening in the Netherlands. And we also spoke about the importance of having talent on the island, importing talent that will come, pay taxes, buy food, use water, use electricity, buy stuff in stores and supermarkets, buy lamps, buy furniture, etc., and pay for internet. So this talent to attract it, there needs to be a certain level of conditions that makes it attractive for them to arrive. I want to jump in now into as a vision. I think we've discussed a lot of material, and we have a few more minutes before we wrap up. What's the next step? Right now, okay, we discussed all this. Plan of action. Right away, what we need to start working on. I want to get a quick answer from each one of you. Like, what are top 10 things that we really need to be pushing forward, that we as a private sector need to work on, what we want to ask the government to work with us on it, and what we think the government's role is in all of this. Go, Marcus, please give it a shot.
About English, first of all, make sure that English is taught everywhere, and that our people are proficient in English so they can absorb knowledge from everywhere. As an example, in my company right now, all of my technicians are following an English course.
Perfect.
Because I need them to understand English if they want to continue and move on in my company.
Right. Brian.
To repeat what Marcos said in the first part, all of us at this table want good quality of life for all people in Curaçao. To get that, we need an economy to be thriving. To get that, we need higher productivity levels among the people that can work. To get that, we need to invest in the people. When we talk about investing, we're talking about the education system for children, to improve that, to enhance the quality there. It's also about training already adults. And it's also to bridge the gap is attracting foreigners with certain qualifications to come to the island to accelerate our growth.
It's transfer of knowledge when they come here too, right?
And
Exactly.
if they're productive, they will help the economy grow for our people also.
Right.
So we need to let go of the fears and protect the market. We are not in the market of protecting scarcity. We need to be more abundant to grow. So my first one would be work on immigration, education, and then also eliminate red tape in government. Those three things are all attached and all important. In the report, we mentioned a few steps per ministry, what they can do. But I think if you really want a top three, I think those three. Immigration,
Wonderful.
education.
I like that phrase that you said about not protecting scarcity. I think that's
the problem in Curacao is we're protecting scarcity.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And we need to think about growth and prosperity and not protecting scarcity. That's a very strong point.
A growth mindset.
Exactly. Renato, what can you add to that?
Yes, I would say the lowest hanging fruit would be automation of processes, transactions. There are a lot of manual things still going on, hence the red tape and the cost of doing business is this high as it is. If you automate the transactions and processes, you make it easier to do business. The costs will go lower, will go down, and also it will make it easier to do business in the sense of, for instance, if you look at bank transactions, it will make exporting easier too. So those.
Yeah. Quick question: do you think there's enough automation in government right now?
No, at all. No,
you can definitely see more in there.
Yes. From the moment that I need a piece of paper, that means that it's not being automated.
And you have to go to 3 places,
Exactly.
one to buy a stamp and one to do this and one to do that.
That's the reason I said that that's the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of automation that still can be done, but we know why it's not being automated because it costs jobs.
Right.
Automation.
Yeah, it has been. Brian, you want to do that quick?
Yes, because I mentioned red tape. I want to emphasize, like in the beginning, we said we need to understand the economy. Oftentimes, when we talk about red tape, people think it's about legislation. It's not only about legislation; it's about processes and people in the public sector that need to do their jobs differently. So we really need to address how the public sector functions. It can be automated. It can be made more efficient.
We've been hearing this term, the red tape, for years. Since I've arrived here in 2011, I came back. Because it was a topic. It was an
because
issue.
They think it's a law that needs to be changed. It's not a law.
Yeah.
It's the process.
It's the process.
It's automation. It's how people work.
It's the courage and the willingness to change that as well.
That's right.
The public sector needs to change.
Billy, take us home, Billy. What's
in the early 80s, there was a country in Europe was going through a disaster. The Prime Minister says, I want you guys to get in this room. I want to lock this room till you come out with a vision. That vision was there, and now that country is the number 4 economy in the world, the 4th most successful economy. You know what that country is?
Ireland. Holland.
Holland.
I thought it was Ireland. Ireland
No.
had a very similar story.
What happens is the decision was made to make these changes because they reached bottom at that time,
Yeah.
supposedly. And I hope we don't have to reach bottom for us to realize that if we don't go with this direction and make these changes, Brian mentioned the 3 points.
Yeah.
They're very important. But the decision is we have to go for this change.
Yeah.
People don't like change. People protect scarcity. People don't in Curaçao, but we have to change that mindset. If not, we're not gonna get out of this problem.
Yeah. I want to really, to sum up everything, I want to touch it because I had it on my mind. Marcus was the first one to mention the touching bottom when we reach rock bottom. My wife is from Venezuela. And we've been obviously, so we've been following, we have family in Venezuela. We know, and every conversation we have, no, when it reaches rock bottom, things will start changing. We've been saying that for 15 years. And the reason I'm bringing this up, there is no rock bottom. It can always get worse. And we need to understand that because Venezuela is an example, Haiti is an example. There are many countries out there. It only keeps getting worse. And then it's up to us to say, te aquí mi te llega. Rock. It has to be a conscious decision to say, whoa, te aquí na nos te llega. Kumisa. Turn around, make that turn around, because rock bottom, man, is like when you're dead. It's like when you're like,
under the rocks.
Under the rocks, literalmente. Rock bottom, it always.
Well, Ghatim, I think what's important, and what Marco says is, we've been spoiled all these years. By Holland.
Yeah.
There was always a big mother out there that was willing to,
And our economy.
and their economies. We had
It was a
an
different world.
oil industry that we thought would never end.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
ending.
just that. It's that we do not believe, and I understand your point about rock bottom, but unfortunately, the impression I get is that things are not going well.
Mhm.
Somehow,
People don't think.
people think that others are doing well.
There is some of
still a
that
thought
too. There's some of that too.
The private sector is
Yeah.
doing well,
Yeah.
so the private sector could fund the problem.
Yeah.
We've gotten to a point where that is no longer possible.
Yeah.
And until everyone realizes that this is a joint effort that needs to be done to make this country productive,
Yeah.
There's not going to be a change.
I'm going to wrap it
All
up.
of us are in this together. We
Yeah.
need to get out of it together.
That
we
is
need to work together.
That is so true. That is so true. My time is running out. Amazing conversation, gentlemen. Thank you so much for that input. I think we've put some stuff on the table and we're sharing it. We're going to be sharing it with a great part of the population in Curaçao. Hopefully, a lot of people get to see it. And whether they agree with us or not agree with us, it's okay. The important thing is that the conversation needs to start about how do we turn things around.
That's right.
It's not whether Brian is right or I'm right or Billy is right. It doesn't really matter who's right now. It matters is, are we ready to turn up our sleeves together, put aside the differences for a moment, whether you like my opinion or not, do not like my opinion, whether you like my political inclination or you don't like it, it doesn't matter anymore. Because right now, if we're not ready to do this, pull the sleeves up, take the jacket off and start, let's pull together the island where we can lose the island. It's as simple as that. We can lose our livelihood. We can use our quality of life. The beautiful place that we have envisioned. I mean, I came back from Europe because I wanted to raise my kids here. I left very good jobs in Europe and my wife had a very good job. But I've always wanted to come back because my vision of Curaçao was like, man, if I want to raise a family, Curaçao is the place to do it. I mean, and I do not regret one moment for coming back. However, now the country needs men and women to stand up, to take charge, and to get ready to do the things that need to be done for the next generation to have better opportunities. And it's our turn to bat. It's our turn to bat. The ball is coming towards us at 90 miles per hour. And it's now up to us whether we hit that out of the field, we make a home run, or we strike out. So, for those of you who are listening to us, I'm Ghatim Kabbara. Thank you for listening in. This has been Nexus. It's a business podcast of the Caribbean. The Curaçao economy has been the hot topic on the table today. We've had some amazing input from board members of the Chamber of Commerce, all of them businessmen on the island. All of them have poured their hearts out with the concern that they're seeing in our economy. And they have taken that step forward to come and share what they believe are steps that need to be taken for us to improve the situation in Curaçao. Thank you all for listening in. I want to thank all of my guests. Thank the Chamber of Commerce again for allowing us to record this interview. For all of you at home, thank you, good night, and God bless.